Hi everyone and welcome back to National League Lowdown with me, Dan. As you can see, we're missing Mark this week, but I'm joined as always by Craig. How are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, very, very well, thanks, mate. Didn't pick the best week to get Casey on after his team decided to beat mine 2-0 yesterday, but delighted to have him here and really looking forward to getting in depth about Rochdale's start and Casey's career so far.
Yeah, and like you can see, we're joined by Casey Pettit. Thank you very much for joining us, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to it, mate. Like I say, we've got loads of questions for you. Obviously, we'll start with Rochdale. You moved there in the summer from Maidenhead. What's the one big difference this season playing for Rochdale that it was playing for Maidenhead last season?
I think it probably speaks for itself. We have the ball, we have the ball, and the complete difference in terms of the way we're playing is we want to dominate the ball, and we want to dominate games by keeping it, moving it around, and progressing up the pitch in complete control over that football. Whereas before at Maidenhead, it probably weren't so much that. It was more so get it forward, get the territory, and then start to see what we can do in the final third. So, yeah, it's definitely, I'd say, probably going to bring out some other aspects of my game that I probably wasn't able to showcase too much at Maidenhead.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it does kind of speak for itself because Maidenhead's job was to try and stay in the league, whereas, like we've said previously, Rochdale's aspirations are to go up, aren't they? There's make no bones about it. That's the target this season, isn't it, for Rochdale?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. As soon as you walk through the door, and to be honest, you don't even need to go through in the club and be a part of the club to realise what their ambitions are. That they are a league side. They are, and that's without a shadow of a doubt. They need to be in the league, and they deserve to be in the league. From what I've come into and seen, the detail and how on it they are with absolutely everything, And yeah, you're right. Like Maidenhead's probably target, without saying it to the boys and without saying it to everyone, was probably to stay in the league, and you can go around saying finish as high as you can and stuff like that, but it's always really been stay in the league, which you need aspirations to go a little bit further sometimes. And I think that's what will also be good for and the difference for me this season is we're now reaching for something again which is slightly higher and winning more football games, and everyone knows how tough it is to get out of the National League. So look, from staying up in the division to going up, everything's going to be tough. Everything's going to be tough, and you could argue it's even harder to go up in the league than stay in it. So yeah, look, it's going to be a long season and a tough season, but the difference, detail, and everything that the football club shows is they've got every possible capability of going up.
Yeah, I mean, just my experiences as a Carlisle fan, there's been a lot of games in League One, League Two with Rochdale, and they've always been a football league side. I talked about this previously with Scunthorpe when we had a Scunthorpe supporter on, and just saying there's certain teams just in stature, in name, that are normally football league sides, and even though they're not in there, they still act that same way. They still have the same attention to detail and things like that. And obviously, you've had a really good start to the season. Lost only one game. I'm going to ask you about Manny D shortly, but obviously top scorer in the league with Regan Linney. He's really firing at the moment. What's the expectation of your next few games? You just win as many as possible?
Yeah, look, like you said there, you've really summarised it quite well. We've had a great start. We had a little slip up away at Brackley. Look, it was a difficult run of games. So we went Wednesday, Saturday, Monday. We changed, and we had a fair few changes in the starting lineup. But look, as cliche as it sounds, take every game as it comes. Take every game as it comes, and for us, it's all about momentum. And we know deep down as well. And Gaffer reminds us about this all the time. We're still not where we want to be. We're still not where we want to be. There's still more to get out from us, and we know that as players. We feel that as players, where we're getting chances and we're not putting them away just yet. And sometimes at the back end of games, we're probably conceding a little bit of territory, which we know that at the moment we're solid and we're actually confident as a side to defend a lead, and stay strong at the back. So we're confident as a group of players. And I think our next lot of ambitions so far is take every game as it comes, get the next 3 points, move on to the next game.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've said that really well there, mate, to be honest. And I think we spoke before the season started. We all had a bit of a chat and we're like, pick 3 players, who you think's going to shine this season. And I picked Manny D as one of mine. And obviously, 7 goals already. How vital is he to you? I mean, again, it's pretty self-explanatory. He's scoring so many goals, but he's obviously very key in how he's want to play.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Manny when he's come into the club, as soon as he was in the training ground and you could get a little feel of what he's about, and then as soon as he plays that first game, you could tell that he was going to do good things for us. If we can keep him injury free, he'll be a massive, massive part, as he's shown already, to our season. I mean, it gives us another route to play as well. I think that may be where Rochdale possibly went a little bit different last year, where they probably didn't have that alternative route where they like to play and stuff. But now, if we're playing and we need to go a little bit longer, I've never seen a geezer up top get the ball wherever it goes and he will just chest it down and we'll play. And he'll get it down on the floor and we've kept the ball. I mean, it's unbelievable. Some of the things he can do, not only the bringing down of play and the hold up of play, but the positions he finds himself in, the headers that he'll score, the finishes on the floor that he'll score. I mean, all round, he's on fire at the moment. And if we can keep him at the top of his game and keep him injury free and look after him, like I said at the start, it'll be a massive, massive aspect for us.
Yeah, a lot of the goals he scores as well. I've noticed the real variety. Some of them are just like poachers finishes. Some of them are like edge of the area, headers, things like that. And it's worth its weight in gold these days because, like you said there, you want to keep it on the deck. You want to play a good football, but also it's good to have that other option because it keeps the defenders guessing. I know at my club, Carlisle, it's similar. We've got like Regan Linney who can, run at players and, really make a difference. But then you've got Luke Armstrong and Georgie Kelly who can just chest the ball out the air, hold the ball up, target men, things like that. And it is a bit of a dying art in football, I feel, sometimes when you see so many people want to play like the Pep Guardiola style. And it's all good and well, but there is a place for target men, long balls into the box, long throw-ins, set pieces, that type of thing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's credit to him, and I'm glad he's got such a variety of goals at the moment as well, because people can actually see that, hold on a minute, he's got more to his game than just hold up and heading goals. He's good with his feet, and I think that's massive. And like you said there, to be able to have different ways of playing and the variety to mix it up, it's so difficult for teams to go up against other teams that have that, because how do you set up, especially with the way we play at the moment and moving forward, the detail in terms of how we play is unbelievable. The different formations that we use as we go up the pitch and how we play is hard enough to defend against. And we've spoken to gaffers coming after team talks after games in pre-season and stuff, and when we've played league sides and they've turned around and they've said, look, I mean, you're a tough side to come up against in terms of your tactical elements and how you play. It's really tough to defend against, and how do you counteract that? And so if you've got another string to your bow there and you can go longer when it needs to, it's so crucial. And if you've got someone up there that not only are you going to go longer, but you're actually going to keep that ball, it helps us, especially us in midfield and players around him, where if we know it's going long, we can get up. We can get up as quick as possible to get on knockdowns to then get it the other side. And if not, and he doesn't quite get it, we can get on second balls, and all of a sudden we've taken our defensive line from being on the edge of our box to up on the halfway line,
Yeah, it's vital. It really is. I know, obviously, we talked a little bit about Manny D and obviously style of play there. I know Craig has some questions on your role, so I'll let Craig ask away now.
Perfect, thank you. So, yeah, just turning the attentions back to yourself slightly. Obviously, you came through Luton's academy, I believe. What were your experiences like in the academy system, and do you think they've benefited you in the long run compared to players that have maybe not had that experiences going forward?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because there's different elements that can really help a player out. You know, I personally have been in academies from the ages of 10. So I was at West Ham for a couple of years, then went to Millwall for 4, wasn't offered my scholarship, and then I went to Luton, was offered my scholar, and built my way up through there into being a first, second year pro, etc. And then obviously going on to Maidenhead and Rochdale. But my own opinion on it is, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with academy systems and what they do for a player in one way, because I feel like some of the coaches that are in and around the environment, I don't think, number one, they're good enough, but some of the information that they give to players and kids and how kids get treated, I don't agree with. At the same time, I don't know how I would change it. So if I was to have that argument and someone goes, how would you check? I have no idea. I don't know, because you want to create the best of the best. As your football club, you want the best of the best in there, and you need to be harsh, you need to be horrible, and that is just the state of the game. How you would counteract my argument, I have no idea. But from the ages of 7, 8, boys are coming in, they're in the academy system, and they're going all the way through, whether they enjoy football or not. You know, it's so important to get the training in and go do training afterwards as well and stuff. It is a very good place to be because you're surrounded by technically gifted players. You're always given opportunities to play with good players and play against good players, forces you to have to be good. And it gives you a challenge, you know, gives you a proper challenge. I think you get more out of it the higher you go, obviously. I think you get into your scholars and you're in the building all the time, and you're looking at what the first team do. You're almost mirroring what the first team do. You're doing the first team job, so you get to go on the grass in the mornings and see what's set up and what they need done. And sometimes you get to watch a bit of training. Then all of a sudden you find yourself after your scholar or during your scholar training with them a couple of times. And then you go to your first year, second year pro, and you're constantly with them. And then you're traveling with the boys, you know, home and away, and you might get on the bench, you might even get a debut, things like that. I think it's massive to see that side of it and to grow and get the experience. Little things like going and traveling in the squad and doing your initiation. I mean, it's horrible. It's one of the worst things in football to have to do. I mean, during dinner, I remember going, I think it was West Brom away at Luton, and I think I spoke to Ethan Horvath, I think the keeper at the time. He came on loan. I think he went Cardiff or something, and then he was really quiet off the pitch, but on the pitch he obviously done his thing. But I thought, let me sit next to him. He won't say anything. I said, oh, I can't believe it. Like, they're going to try and get me to do it. He went, no, you'll be fine. Who was it at the end of dinner to go up and get a chair and put it in the middle of the room? It was Eve, wasn't it? It was Eve. So he's absolutely thrown me under the bus there, and I was like, oh, I can't. I didn't want to eat. I was shaking and everything. It was horrible. But when you do it, it's so good, because then you've got the uncomfortable part done. You're in front of the boys, and you know, you get accepted a little bit more. Obviously, you're still seen as a youngster, depending on your age. But you know, in that aspect, it's so good to experience all these things, not only as a footballer but as a person as well. Because I think you really take something out of that, and wherever you go next, it gives you a little something where I don't think you'll be put in some of the positions that you have been put in as a footballer, whether that's being released, whether that's having to do little things like that in a normal job and in a normal environment. And so I think it's good in that sense. But in terms of your question, where going back to academies and if they're good for you, and I think they are. I think they are, because they get you to be around the quality players, and the technical side of your game can come on loads, and the tactical elements, which you might not get elsewhere, compared to someone who might be quite raw coming through grassroots non-league. I think it gets to a certain age where you've got to be in a professional environment, because you need the better coaching. You need to be taught certain things, simple little thing as a midfielder. If a centre half dribbles past you, There's no point you joining the attack as well as a holding midfielder if you haven't got the cover behind. You need to drop, and these are little details which you probably won't be taught too much when you're not in a professional environment, you know. So I think there's pros and cons to it, but I think the further up you go and the older you get, the more vital it is to be in them professional setups.
That's a great answer. Thank you. In terms of going back to Maidenhead now, obviously you spent a good few seasons there. Went in pretty young. It was probably your first real exposure to playing senior football consistently. See, fantastic manager there in Allen, Devonshire. How was your time there? Is there anything you look back and want to do slightly different, or other than obviously the latter stages of last season and how it panned out, but anything you do differently individually, or did you just kind of embrace it all and take it all in your stride?
Yeah, look, I coming away from Luton, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I didn't want to drop as low as what I did to National League level. I didn't know too much about it. I wanted to stay in the league and I wanted to stay as high as possible, which every player does, right? Every player does. But what Maidenhead done was they brought me in and they gave me a platform. You know, they trusted me. The biggest thing for me coming away from Luton as a youngster was I haven't played men's football. I've played a lot of 21s and I've been on the bench and whatever with the first team, who actually at the time got to the Prem. And albeit I didn't come on, didn't make a debut, which I was gutted about. I've come away from there with loads of experience around the boys, but not necessarily too much on the actual pitch itself, which is the most important. So for players and for managers will look at that and they'll go, they need experience. You know, they need experience and they can't trust certain players and youngsters all the time to come in and do a job straight away, you know. So that was the biggest thing I felt. And coming into Maidenhead, they trusted me, you know. Within a few games, all of a sudden I found myself in a starting lineup and I didn't come out of it. I just wanted to work as hard as I could and stay in that starting lineup. That was my first goal, get in the starting lineup and stay in there. And that's what I've done. And then it was about a little bit more of what I can do to improve myself and show myself out. So hopefully in years to come, I get myself a move a little bit higher and we get back on track and get back in the league. Again, what would I do differently? I would have loved to keep us up. Obviously, I know you said there the latter stages of the season, it was gutting the way it ended. And did we probably have a squad that was good enough to stay in the league? Probably not. Probably not. Was I as good as what I could have been? Probably not. For what my capabilities are and what I can achieve and showcase, I don't think I was quite good enough last season compared to the season before. But look, it's one of them things in football. The only thing you can do is look forward and move forward. And look, Maidenhead will do well. They'll be all right and they'll come back up, whether it's this season, next season, whatever that looks like. Because they deserve to be in the National League. You know, they should be in there, and I think they will. They'll be back.
Yeah, well, they were in my good books yesterday because they beat Chelmsford, so that was always.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Rivals. Good result for them. At the end.
You not so much in my good books yesterday after you beat us.
I can only apologise. I'll firm that one. I'll firm it.
But just moving on to obviously this season in Rochdale, is this the first time you've really had to relocate geographically in terms of housing and all that? And how's that been? Because obviously that's quite a big change for someone who's still quite young as you are as well.
Yeah, I've looked at it and it all happened quite quickly. We knew Rochdale were interested and things in the summer, along with various other National League sides and a couple of league sides as well. But then the turnaround of it was quite quick. They registered their interest again and then they was quite keen to get it over the line, in which we went through with it. So for me, I didn't have too much time to think about it, which I think has helped. You know, look, I'm a family man. I love my family and love being around them and stuff. But I've really embraced it, going and moving away. You know, it's been fantastic. Like, I've really enjoyed coming away, and I know we spoke just before we started the pod about my coaching and I had it all set up from COVID times and it's been flying and that was my life in terms of going training and stuff, coming back, and I do a few coaching sessions here and there and things. Now it's actually, I've relocated, the coaching's still going on with my other staff members and stuff, and I've been able to really focus on my own football, my own game, which has been brilliant for me. And in terms of that relocating, it's been perfect to go elsewhere. Like I said, there, focus on the football, go into training, come away, and really embrace that football inside. And I think there's no better club in the league personally to go to in terms of this football inside, where I know we mentioned before me being at Luton, I feel like I'm back there in that sort of professional environment, but now I'm part of it a little bit more, you know, whereas before I was as a youngster, this time now I'm a proper first teamer involved in it all, and I'm absolutely loving every minute of it, and I can't complain with that at all. And it's something that you just got to get on with, you know. You can't really think too much about, oh, I wish I was back at home and things like that. You know, I'm old enough now to be on my own. I'm old enough to do everything like that, and look, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Don't know whether the missus wants to stay up north all the time. I'm not sure whether that's something we need to have a chat about. But I've said straight away, I said the first couple of months, I've really enjoyed it. And look, if I have to stay here, I've got to stay here, and I wouldn't mind. Whether that changes as the season goes on, and I realise a little bit more when the weather goes a bit poor. But yeah, but look, I'm loving it, and I can't complain at all at the moment.
Come back on the podcast in January when the weather's grim, and we'll ask it again.
Yeah,
we'll ask it again.
I will say everything completely opposite to what I've just said. I'm sure. Get me back down south is what I'll be saying.
But yeah, that's pretty much all the questions we had for you. So we're going to go into the deep dive of the games from the weekend. First up, makes sense. Start with Rochdale, Braintree, 2-0. Manny D, the main man, both goals. How did you see the game, Casey? Obviously, go into as much detail as possible, just so Craig suffers as much as possible.
Right, sit back and relax, Craig. Let's get into it, shall we? No, look, we going into the game, we knew nothing's an easy game in the National League, which I know we had briefly spoke before about how teams that are probably fighting to stay in the league and stuff, they can actually be the ones to slip up and make shock results sometimes against the top teams. And look, make no mistake about it, a win is a win. And in the National League, like I said, no win is easy. So we knew going into it, it's always going to be tough. There's always going to be a moment where they will have a chance or a few chances, or they will be on top for a few minutes or 10 minutes in a game. It's bound to happen. You know, it's bound to happen. So that's where we need to be switched on. We need to be ready and take nothing for granted. There is quality everywhere, and on every team there will be quality. So we need to be switched on with that, which I thought we done superbly. And going into the game, we started decent. We kept the ball. And look, I thought it was a comfortable win in the end. You know, I thought it was a comfortable win. We knew we had more coming in at half time. We knew we had a lot more to show, and we hadn't really started, although we were 2-0 up, and it probably could have been 4. Sorry, Craig. But
I agree, mate. Don't worry.
but look, I mean, the boys have been blinding. Like each game, from what I've seen and stuff, we've really dominated. I think the only team that's really dominated us off with the ball is Wildstone. But that being said, we was clinical as anything that day. Clinical as anything. We got our chances. Like I said there, some teams may dominate with the ball, but there's always going to be a spell where other teams get a chance, they get a bit of quality and they get a moment. And we had our moments, and we absolutely put the ball in the back of the net. And it probably could have done it more times in that game, and a lot more against Braintree, you know. So I think 2-0 was probably a harsh reflection on the game in a way where it should have been more and it could have been more. But that being said, we showed our other side. You know, we was able to, when it got to the later stages in the game, the territory we probably gave to them a little bit more, and they were coming forward with a few more attacks to try their best to get back in the game and get something from it. But look, we were solid, and we didn't think we would concede, and that's exactly how the game went.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a pretty comfortable victory. Obviously, Craig, from a Braintree perspective, how did you see the game, mate?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment. I think first half was definitely very, very one-sided. again, I find myself kind of looking at the team sheet as it comes out at 2:00 and wondering about some of the decisions that's been made. Obviously, I know James Venning's had an injury towards the latter stage of last season, but he's, for me, one of the first names on the team sheet, and to see him on the bench was a little bit of a shock for me. And we'd never seem to get any control of the ball, and it just seemed to be very, very one-sided. That I think I actually flicked it onto a different channel on DAZN at one stage and had a little watch of another one, because I was fearing another Carlisle result at one stage. We made some tweaks at half-time, and then I think Akinde had a shot that he probably should have done better with. He's yet to register a goal this season in 8, which is worrying when he's obviously your main striker. We're talking about Manny D a moment ago now. He's hit the ground running. That hasn't happened at Braintree. I know, obviously, again, we've talked about different aspirations, but if you can have a striker that's going to score you lots of goals, then you can change games. Despite how poor we were and how good Rochdale was, he scores that, it's 2-1. Everything gets a little bit nervy around the stadium, and it could create a second chance for us. But yeah, I think it's a fair result. I think our injury crisis is obviously mounting now. I believe we've got 7 on the list out of a squad of 21. So we only named 4 subs yesterday. Don't know why I didn't get the call up. I'd have put my boots on if I needed to. But and then I can assure you they'll never be that desperate. But
I'll tell you what though. On that, I know we've spoken about Manny a lot, and how like what he's doing for us as a team and what he gives us. The flip side of that is the other end of the pitch. Oliver Watmuffin goal. I mean, he's 17 on loan from Man City. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. He shot stopping speaks for itself. You know, being a keeper, using your hands speaks for itself. But to have someone like him at such a young age, the composure he's got, I've never seen a player right foot, left foot. I mean, the geezer's right-footed, but he prefers kicking on with his left. Explain that.
It's funny you should bring him up, Casey. We've been actually really praising of him from the start of the season. I said when he came in, I watched his. I think I can't remember who you were at home to, but just he ran the clock. That like for 17 years old, he was just gathering the ball, coming for balls, spraying it left and right, and he knew when to waste the time, run the clock. That like I was like at 17, like what is this kid going to be like when he's 21 or 22? You know, it's like he's been outstanding.
Like a £15 million goalkeeper, didn't we? We said in his time he'd be almost like a James Trafford, Joe Hart kind of person that's going down the levels a little bit on a loan and is flying.
Yeah, 100%. But again, that's another thing. If you've got that confidence at the back, it goes through the whole team. You know, it goes through the whole team. And honestly, there's not a foot that I can say what he is. You know, if he's put on his right, happy days. If he's put on his left, happy days. He's done a few passes yesterday, Craig. If you've seen him, he's being put under pressure and he's still rolling the ball out. I'm thinking on the bench, hold on a minute, what are you doing here? And he's actually and he's finding passes. And that gives us something. That gives us something else, because we like that. You know, we like to wait until almost the last second where they are pressing us. Opens up gaps for us, and then we can play in. And the quality to them playing, because a couple people might wait till the last second and they might rush it, or the quality might not be there. But he's got that quality, and he gives us that, to whether it's bouncing into the midfield, bouncing to the centre halves, or whether it's actually going longer into our wingers, longer to Manny up front. And all of a sudden you're looking at that and you're going, how do you press this kid? How do you press him? You can't. And we were sat on the bench yesterday. We're thinking, they're still pressing him. It's amazing how they're still pressing him, because do they not realise what's going on here? They're pressing him, and he's just killing them with one pass. And it's, but honestly, and you know what? He's a really nice lad as well, which makes all the difference too. If you've got someone there who isn't a nice lad, but he's got a bit about him on the pitch, you're like, all right, fine, we'll firm the fact that he's not the best off the, but he is such a good kid off the pitch, and on the pitch he speaks for itself. So it'll go high, 100%.
Yeah. Is he with you like every day, or does he still go back to Man City and do?
Yeah, so at the moment he's been in with us all the time. Again, whether that changes, I'm not 100% sure, but at the moment he's been in with us all the time, and I think it's key that he is in terms of our aspects in the way we play him, because he's really got to grips with how we play very quickly. And look, when we dominate the ball as we do so much, he's not necessarily a keeper. He's just another centre half at times. You know, when he's coming up the pitch and he's being able to showcase what he can do with the football, he's another centre half, and I think it's key for him to be around the building all the time, especially with the lads. So whether it changes moving forward in the season, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, what a player.
Good job they signed Donnarumma, mate, or they'd be having him back.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, we'll be sweating a little bit. He might get the call up. And then I'm in the sticks. I might have to get myself, like Craig, I might have to get my boots on and go in.
It's funny.
When you talk about not knowing what foot he was, people have said the same about me, but not for good reasons.
Yeah, he's what must have been a bit of a regular in our team of the week that we do.
He made the team of the month as well, didn't he?
And team of the month. We've been quite impressed, let's say, with him for his age. Unbelievable, and like you say, I think that he's destined for greatness personally.
100%.
But yeah, obviously next game we've got Altrincham 2, Sutton 1. Altrincham seem to have they had a bit of a shaky start, but they seem to have got it together. They're up to 7th now. Sutton, more questions than answers really. They beat Carlisle and then they've reverted back to defeat. We've talked a little bit off camera about potentially Steve Morrison. Is he under a little bit of pressure? Craig, how did you see this game, mate?
Yeah, so I managed to catch a little bit of this one, obviously live, and then I've watched the highlights as well. And Sutton seemed really good to start, and it seemed like they were building on that result from Carlisle. That could have been the turning point in the early parts of their season. They took the lead for a really good finish from Ashley Nadson, who, again, we've said we're a big fan of. And then it just seemed to be the second half, kind of the tide changed. As soon as Altrincham scored one, it just felt like it was inevitable they were going to win the game. And although Jack Sims, again, we love our goalies, and he made an excellent save for the second one. It was followed him well, and then Altrincham controlled the game from then on and looked very fair to get the 3 points. I just dropped my pen, sorry. But yeah, they were very comfortable after all. And like you said, they've had some shaky results. Obviously, they had to go to Morecambe the week of Morecambe's first game, and everyone was kind of backing them to win, but Morecambe managed to beat them late on, and you thought that might have had a kind of poor effect on their morale and what's going on, but they seem to have really turned it around, and they're probably in the position they were aiming to be. Obviously, they're probably not expecting to be right up there with the big boys, but if they can be in and around that 6th, 7th place in the playoff, they'll be delighted with the way the season's gone from now on.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, like we've talked about previously, they lost Newby, they lost Linney, but they seem to be steadying that ship and gradually climbing the table. So credit to them. Casey, how did you see this one, mate?
Yeah, look, I think Craig summarised it quite well. Sutton started sharp, and I think, like you said, they've built on their result from previous, and you just thought as soon as it went 1-1, I think you just knew almost who was going to be edging that game. Obviously, watching it a little bit live, it was on a little bit in the change room before the game, and then obviously because they were the early kickoff on now, I'm pretty sure. And so we switched it off after a while, and it just looked like when it went 1-1, you could only see one team going ahead and finishing. There was a few chances from which, again, keepers made decent saves and stuff, but yeah, look, Altrincham are a good side. Both of them show ounces of quality, you know, especially on their day and stuff. But you just fear Sutton started quite slow in a way, and Altrincham's quality has just shown out towards the end of the game, and for them being on top and dominated, I think it's a fair reflection on how the game went.
Yeah, I agree. I caught the first half before I went to Brunton Park, and I was quite impressed with Jaden Harris and Ashley Addison, both of them ex-Carlisle players. Both looked really good. And then when I got to the game and checked it, and it was 2-1 to Altrincham, by the time I got to the game, I was like, what's drastically changed here? Yeah, I was like, that was a drastic turnaround, because Sutton were comfortably on top from what I seen in the first half. So yeah, so big win for Altrincham. Sutton, serious questions. Poor start from them, but again, it's early days, things can change. Next we've got Boreham Wood 3, Morecambe 0. Boreham Wood are absolutely flying, by the way, absolutely flying. Morecambe, they're still finding the feet, aren't they? You know, so many different new players all trying to bred together and work together. It will gel, I think, at some point. It's just a matter of when. Boreham Wood, though, incredible up into the playoffs. I think they're up to fifth. Is it fifth now? They're up to. I'm just checking. Yeah, up to fifth. Up to fifth. That's some start. Casey, how did you see this game, mate?
Yeah, look, we played obviously opening game of the season, which it had that kind of feel of a game when we played in it. It felt like, again, it was a very tight game at the start, and it felt like it could go either way. We came out second half and we knew they were tiring. Obviously, us dominating the ball and us getting our chances, we just had to remain patient. And look, since we've played them, it looks like they've built some momentum and got some results. I think what killed them a little bit was probably their pre-season, to be fair. That they didn't have the best of pre-seasons from what we saw, and spoke to a couple of their players after the game who we've played with previously and stuff, and I feel like the confidence around the team wasn't the best due to their little pre-season stint that they had. They seem to be finding their feet now and finding what was working for them, and look, they'll be up there for sure. I mean, if you look at previous years, that they obviously went down in not last season before, into the South. They went down. But before that, they've always been in and around the playoffs. They've always been there. So, look, they'll be up there for sure. And if they can keep their feet under the table and keep working hard and keep batting away at the points, they'll be a tough side. They'll be a tough side to come up against, which teams have. And Morecambe, look, you've seen the struggles that they've been through, and thankfully that they've been brought out of them at the moment, and they're now saved, and they're still a footballing club, and they're in the league and stuff. So it does look like it just needs to click with them now. It looks like there's a bunch of individuals playing, which, to be fair, it probably is. It probably is at the moment, because of what's gone on and stuff. And like you said there, they probably just need a little bit more time to gel together, which will come. And again, they're a massive club. They're a massive club, and they don't deserve to be here either. They deserve to be in the league, and they need to be back in the league. And I'm sure that would have been their aspirations going into this season, having just dropped down to try and bounce back up as soon as possible. But with everything going on behind the scenes, it's obviously not worked out that way. So I think they just need to find their feet, and to be fair, they need to find it quick, because it's a brutal league. So if they can, I think they'll be a decent side. But for the moment, it does look a little bit like that, where they might be a little bit of a team of individuals at the moment.
Yeah, I think it'll take time, like we said, and the manager's got a very distinct style of play he wants to play, so he's going to have to implement that as well. And like I say, it's a brutal league. He's going to have to do it quite quickly. Like, they can't afford another 3 or 4 defeats on the spin, because then they'll get cut adrift, and it could become a very long season for them. But like you said it really well as well, where if you'd offered them this a few months ago, when they looked on the verge of not existing anymore, they'd quite happily just fulfill the fixtures. And, if they go down, they go down. At least they've got a club to support and a game to go to on a weekend, So that's the overriding factor for them. Boreham Wood, for me, they're the best team that's come up to Brunton Park so far this season. We were 3-1 up with 12 minutes to go, and they got it back to 3-3.
That's disrespectful to Braintree. Thank you very much.
apart from Braintree, they're the best team that came up here.
You almost knew Craig had something to say about that one.
But yeah, they were 3-1 down with 12 minutes to go, got it back to 3-3, and could have won it at the end as well. So they were unlucky to not come away with 3 points from up here. So very impressed with them so far. Craig, how did you see the game, mate?
Yeah, I think the common theme I've heard with the Morecambe manager at the moment is judge us at the end of October. So he's understand this is almost a pre-season for them. But unfortunately for them, every pre-season game's got 3 points on the line at the moment. We've spoke very highly about Boreham Wood, and especially one player, Luke Norris, and he didn't even come on yesterday until after the 3rd goal. So that's testament of maybe the depth that they've actually got. Matt Rush scored a great double, including an extremely well-worked 2nd goal from a free kick. I don't know if you boys have seen it, but they played a lovely kind of set piece, and it's an excellent finish. They do say that sending offs change games, and obviously Morecambe lost Ajiman just before half-time, but in this stage, I think the game was pretty one-sided, and they were going to be pretty comfortable anyway, Boreham Wood. But yeah, I don't think any of us had them to go down. I think we had them kind of in that mid-table area, but they're surprising a few of us at the moment. And like we said, they left their talisman on the bench yesterday for 70 minutes and were 3-0 up when he come on. So as Saturdays go, that's pretty perfect, to be fair.
Makes a change. A nice, easy afternoon at the office for Luke Norris. Makes a nice change for him. Next up, we've got Boston 1, Solihull Moors 2. A couple of us called this on the previous podcast when Matt Taylor got sacked, saying the shackles might be off and Solihull might, hit the ground running. I think I actually predicted a draw, not a win, but obviously they went one better. Craig, how did you see this game, mate?
Yeah, so the irony is it's probably the last player he signed that is the match winner in this game. Though Jacob Wakelin, they obviously brought in. He's had probably one game under Matt Taylor, who signed him, and then the second game was this game. He scored 2 fantastic finishes. The first one, especially, I think the keeper maybe thought he was going to play a ball across. He's just fired it with so much power. Quite similar to Regan Linney's in that sense, except for this one was on his left foot. But an excellent finish, and kind of you then saw Boston score and thought maybe it's going to be the same as that Altrincham Sutton game that we talked about, where they'd go and take the incentive. But Solihull did eventually nick it with Wakelin, although in my opinion, there was a foul on a Boston player in the build-up earlier on, which wasn't given. But then they broke in numbers and he exposed his man one-on-one and finished. And for them now, it's a chance to kind of build on it. Again, we talked about Sutton and them not being able to build on their victory. Can they now build on this Solihull and get themselves away from trouble? Because, again, none of us particularly predicted them to be down there. None of us were a particular fan of the manager, though. So now
I predicted them to be 19th. I predicted them to be 19th.
Now that I've predicted them to be 8th, so I didn't go too well on that one, but it's early days still. Early days. I had Sutton 7th and Solihull 8th, so we'll move on from that pretty quickly. But yeah, Boston, it seems the manager seems really downbeat at the moment, and there was a few little fans I saw in the comments afterwards saying you need to give him what he wants or he might be on his way out. So one to potentially keep an eye on there at Boston, that it's not going as well as it was at the end of last season, where they were quite frankly unbelievable, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone thought they were just going to carry that form on, didn't they, into this season from last season, and it hasn't quite worked out that way. Casey, what were your views on the game, mate?
Yeah, I think the better team won. Looking at the highlights, obviously wasn't able to watch it live and watch the whole game, but it looked like Solihull had the chances to win it, and like you said, they're 2 decent finishes. One from a tight angle, which looked a very good finish. But you almost thought when Matt Taylor got sacked, for some reason there seems to be a thing that as soon as the manager gets sacked, all of a sudden your next game is almost like a guaranteed win. So you almost thought something was going to happen, and I know we spoke a few of the boys at football, and we said, you almost wanted to play them before the manager got sacked, because now all of a sudden you have no idea how they're going to turn up, and you knew that there was going to be a reaction. You knew something was going to happen within the team, and so like you said there, you almost, if you're a Solihull fan, you're almost hoping that they can build on that. And look, it's early doors. I know we're talking about here where you had predictions of where they was finishing and stuff, but early stages in the game, Solihull can now go on a massive run. I've been keeping a close eye on Maidenhead's results in the league below, and they really struggled at the start of the season. Nothing was clicking for them, and all of a sudden they've gone 4 unbeaten and 4 wins out of 4. And now they're up in like playoff positions and stuff. So anything can happen, especially this early on in the season. So just about being patient, and for teams like Solihull, for teams like Sutton, and those that haven't started the best, and Morecambe and stuff, you're 1 game away from your next win, and you get that win and you can build on it. All of a sudden that confidence within a team is massive. People underestimate the confidence element that goes on in players' minds and teams and everything like that. If you're playing well and not getting the results, it can really be a kick in the teeth. But if you're on fire and you've got the confidence within the boys and you're not playing so well, you might just still come away with something, and that's the difference with the confidence and the psychological side of the game. And look, they won't be panicking. None of them teams will be panicking, not yet, definitely not. Maybe if they get about 10 games away and they're still nowhere near it, then that's when it will probably be alarm bells. But yeah, no one will be panicking at this stage. And I know we said about the Morecambe manager saying at end of October, that's when you can judge us and stuff. And I think that's fair. Teams are still getting used to the way people are playing, and whether it's been a late signing or a new sign, whatever that looks like, you know, still finding out how we play and getting up to speed with it. And even there with the Braintree, they've had so many injuries. You know, they need to now click together as a team that not everyone has played together maybe as many minutes as they wanted to, and you've just got to work through these battles, and that's sort of all again for them and their fans, and as a team they're obviously hoping to now go on a bit of a run, and you almost knew that was probably going to be the case after they sacked Matt Taylor.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one big hurdle for Solihull were that they were the only team in the league not to have won a game. So now they've won a game. Now it's like, right, everyone's kind of on a level playing field now, and it's let's see who can kind of go on a bit of a run. That's how I thought anyways. I thought Solihull now have got that, you know, that weight off the shoulders, and they're like, right, let's see if we can get a bit of a run going. Because I think they've got a decent squad. Again, they came up Brunton Park, got a draw up here, played really well. Dan Creaney up front. They've got some really good players, so I expect them to go on a bit of a run. Now, obviously, they'll appoint a new manager at some point as well, so that there'll also be the new manager bounce as well as just the sacking of the manager bounce. There'll also be the new manager bounce. So it wouldn't surprise me if we're talking in a few weeks' time that they've won 3 or 4 on the spin or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me. Talking of winning games on the spin, we've got, as Mark calls them, I'll make sure we say this, Mark calls them this, dry toast, Woking 5, Gateshead 0. I mean, I think a lot of us predicted Woking victories, but I don't think anyone predicted 5-0. Casey,
I had 5 goals in the game. I had 3-2.
Yeah, I mean, you were closer than the rest of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, Casey, how did you see this game, mate?
Yeah, it seemed very one-sided, which you can tell that by the scorelines. I think you look at both sides; they haven't had the best of starts to the season. Woking probably picking up a few more points now, and getting a bit more confidence. I think what's that? 2 wins, is it something like that for them?
Back-to-back wins.
Back-to-back wins, yeah. So again, they've built on their last game, and the game seemed over when it hit 2-0, 3-0 by the looks of it. And from looking at the highlights, I don't know whether Gateshead had any chances or any bar one. So I think it was a big result in terms of the season for Woking. I think they needed something like that to set them apart a little bit and give them a little bit more of a boost. I think you look at the Gateshead side and where they are compared to previous Gateshead sides, they've lost a little bit of their core, you know. And I know from when we played them, we were very good. We were a very good side when we played them, and I was on the bench and watching on that game, and the boys done fantastic. I expected more from Gateshead. I expected them to come out and play a little bit more and showcase what we're probably used to Gateshead doing a little bit to teams. And obviously, I know not a Maidenhead anymore, so they probably dominated the ball more so against us than what they did against the likes of Rochdale and other teams like that. But I expected a little bit more from them, and it seems like that's almost the case where people aren't necessarily fearing too much going into games now, and they know that they've got a chance, and by the looks of Woking yesterday, it seems that was the case with them.
Yeah, I mean, for Woking, I've just looked there. They're unbeaten in 4 now after a really bad start. I know, like I said, Carlisle played them first game of the season, won there 1-0, or 2-0, sorry, not 1-0. But yeah, and it was like they didn't really have a lot of attacking threat, and they look really light up front, but they've turned it round. Like you say, you get on these runs, unbeaten in 4 now. Again, we could be sat in a couple of weeks saying they're unbeaten in 7, 8, you know, and they're a really well-established side. I think they've got a good manager, in my opinion, as well. So I think Woking now seem to have turned a bit of a corner. As far as Gateshead are concerned, I think that's a really worrying result. I know we say it's early days, but I think getting beaten 5-0 by a team that's also struggled at the start of the season, I think that's a bit of a marker put down, and it's how the Gateshead bounce back from that now. Craig, how did you see this one, mate?
Yeah, to just on them bouncing back, they obviously finished 8th last season, had a really poor end to the season, but very early in the season, you might not remember, Dan, because your focus was more on League Two last season. They got battered 7-1 by Dagenham and Redbridge quite early last season. And then they did go on a bit of a run that kept them around the playoffs. So that will be the shred of hope that their fans are clinging on to after this one, I think. But yeah, Woking dominated from start to finish. In terms of home performances, that's ultimately the performance you're looking for every week. It's very rare you get that kind of Saturday. So they'll be delighted. Josh Asude come off the bench, got 2 goals, kind of bounced around the lower levels, step 3, step 4. He's been teams very local to us, such as Whittam Town. Got his move to hashtag step 3 and then has taken his step when they were his first 2 goals. And like I say, the buses come 2 at a time when you score goals like that as well. Hasn't scored any for the team since he's moved in about March time, and then scores 2 in 10 minutes. But that'll be interesting because you've talked about them being like up front, whether that's the spark that gets his season going for them. Because we always say if you're going to be in and around the bottom, which they might be, a 15-goal, 20-goal man season could keep you out of a lot of battles and a lot of trouble down there. So if they can get somebody firing and keep this run that they're going, then they won't be looking over their shoulders anymore. They'll be looking up the table.
Yeah, definitely. And then the last of our 6 games is Yeovil 1, York 3. Obviously, York hadn't played for a couple of weeks, so we're all a bit worried as to what we were going to see. Were they going to just hit the ground running, or were they going to struggle? I know we predicted a couple of us that it might be a draw, they might struggle, but they hit the ground running and showed why they're one of the favourites to win the league. Craig, how did you see this game, mate?
Yeah, so obviously not only the break, but change of manager in that time as well. And I believe obviously we've only seen the highlights, but a slight change in system. One of the biggest worries for them was Ollie Pearce as well, what he was going to be doing over the last couple of weeks. And as soon as Hinshelwood moved on, obviously there was a lot more talk of him potentially moving on as well. So for him to grab a goal in the new manager's first game is probably the ideal start for them as well. Talking about Watmuff earlier and obviously how he's so confident waiting and playing out from the back. We saw the opposite as their keeper got caught out, and it gave Yeovil a chance to kind of kick back on at 2-1 and hopefully throw everything, and then they've scored an own goal as well. So a game littered with some errors as well, but for York, after the long wait, the change of manager, performance can be great, can be not, but ultimately it was all about getting the 3 points, and that's what they've done. And Yeovil obviously still waiting to appoint Cooper's successor, and the kind of the feedback we're getting from Yeovil fans right there is White's his assistant. Nothing's really changed at the moment for them. But like you said, they got their new manager or their SAT manager bounce last week when they managed to win. So hopefully for them, they get that new manager bounce soon in a couple of weeks, because they've got to be making that appointment soon, because at the minute it seems like no style's changed for them and the fans are quite frustrated there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for taking time on appointing a manager if you're really particular and things. But if the assistant's just coaching it and nothing's changed, then the reason the manager was sacked nothing's changed. So you're not going to get improved results. Last week, I know they won, but it was against Solihull Moors, and it was like Casey said earlier on, if you wanted to play Solihull Moors, it was before the sacked Matt Taylor. So it kind of felt like it was a bit of a false dawn for them. I feel like they do need to make this appointment in this next week or so. Get them in before Saturday, but who knows? Obviously, we'll speak to Ethan, who's appeared on the podcast before.
Yeah, they've had, I believe it's Anthony Limerick. Name might not be correct. Who's managed a few teams at this level. He's been at the last 2 games, so it looks like he might be coming in there. But again, that's not an exclusive. That's a rumor.
That nice little save at the end there. It's not Casey, how did you see the game, mate?
Yeah, I didn't see too much of this. I see the highlights, so I can't comment too much on it. But again, like we said there, York have shown why they'll be up there. They've got the job done, and obviously convincingly at the end. Look, they're a good side. They'll be up there, and you could probably argue Yeovil again. They're another side that probably deserve to be in the league, and a lot of their time has been spent in the league. So I think for them, they need to bounce back. They need to get some results under their belt, and like we're saying, it's 1 game away from going on a run, and that's what all these clubs will be looking at the moment. And I think from what we've spoken about at all these games, the likes of Gatesheads and Yeovils and Suttons and teams like that and Morecambes, you're looking at that and you're going, anyone can win in this league. Anyone can win. I know we spoke about it before. It's such a it's such a competitive league, but a strange league in a way as well, where you almost look at any game and you go, you can call it on paper, but when the game actually goes ahead, anyone can beat anyone, and that's the craziness about this league. And so again, early on, no one can really look into too much on how it, how it's going and who's going to be going down. You can obviously look at performances and go, the confidence wise with them and where they look like as a team, where they are and where their heads at and confidence wise and stuff. But apart from that, obviously in that game specific, York have shown why they'll be up there. They put away their chances, they've scored their goals, they've come away with the 3 points, and they're on to the next one, having gone 2 weeks without a game. I'm sure they might have looked to try to get a friendly in. I don't know for sure, but I know from being at clubs before that if they've got a certain period of time away from playing games, they would have looked to try and arrange a friendly, which I think would be beneficial for them, especially with the new manager coming in to get to grips on how they want to play. But look, we know they'll be up there. I think everyone's got them down to be up there and potentially win the league or be in and around it anyway, and they've showcased that. With the games they have played, they're a little bit behind everyone, but they're unbeaten, I'm pretty sure. Still unbeaten. So, look, I know they haven't played as many as everyone else, but people can't take that for granted. And they've come in, and it can always be quite tough. 2 weeks with no game, and they've gone ahead and got the 3 points. They've got the job done away from home as well. So yeah, look, they'll definitely be up there. And Yeovil, like I said before, they're 1 win away from going on a run, and they're a decent side. Everyone's a decent side in this league, so anyone can beat anyone.
Yeah, definitely. And we are going to talk about Scunthorpe Wilston, but I thought we'll save that till the end, just because we're not doing our predictions on this one. So, because obviously there was a massive talking point in that game. So what we do, Casey, now is, instead of deep diving all of the games, because we were here for ages, we've now decided we do like 5 in 5 minutes. So it's my turn this week. So if you bear with me while I just go on a ramble for 5 minutes. So first up, we've got Carlisle 3, Truro 0. I'm quite happy to talk about this if you want. Obviously, 2 early goals. Luke Armstrong killed the game. Truro actually acquitted themselves well early on, passed the ball around, had a couple, forced Breeze into a save, couple of chances. But as soon as that first goal went in, they were deflated. Regan Linney, moment of magic. I don't know if you've seen the goal, but just absolutely incredible. Went past 2 defenders, nutmegged one right in the top corner from a tight angle. Even Mark Hughes on the bench had hands on his head like that. And anyone who's ever watched Mark Hughes play, how many worldies he scored. To be in shock, that says how good it was. But massive credit to Truro. Brought 78 fans. That's incredible. 800-mile round trip, something like that. They were up here on the Friday night at one of the local teams watching them. And then they went to Brunton Park yesterday. They got Carlisle United were really good. They done them a free pie and a pint on arrival, which I think is really good from the club. So massive well done to Carlisle for that, and massive respect to Truro. But Truro all have bigger games to play. They'll probably put that down just as they didn't expect to get anything from it. They'll have bigger games against teams down the bottom that they'll be wanting to win going forward. Carlisle still in third. I still think they've got another gear to go up. But the positive signs are there. Next, we've got Forest Green 1, Hartlepool 0. Again, Forest Green absolutely flying. Robbie Savage, there was a few question marks, especially on this podcast, around Robbie Savage's appointment. But he's, again, early days, but he's proven us right. Cairo Mitchell with the only goal. Hartlepool solid at the back, so they're a tough team to beat. They won't be too disheartened. I don't think many teams will go to Forest Green and get much this season, so credit to them. But Forest Green still top. Next, we've got Southend 3, Halifax 0. Andrew Dallas with another goal, and then obviously there was a red card for, I apologise if I say the name wrong, Adam Alimi Adatoro got sent off, and then they sealed the win with 2 late goals from Gus Scott Morris and Ben Goodliff. Then Tamworth Eastleigh 1-0 to Tamworth. Jazz, who we've had on the podcast, clean sheet for him. Big win. Eastleigh's shaky start continues, but Tamworth's home form, which we said was going to be massive for them this season, back-to-back wins. Sorry, Craig, at Braintree, going into this one and winning this one as well. They're away to York on Tuesday night, which could be a tough one for them. So I would expect maybe that winning run to come to an end, but you never know in this league, like we've discussed. But yeah, massive win for them. Manny Duku got the only goal. I think he missed a penalty as well in the game, so it could have been more. And then the late kickoff was Aldershot 2, Brackley 2. And my 3 words, Craig, for Aldershot: value for money. If you want to go and see a game littered with red cards, goals, mistakes, all kinds, just go to Aldershot every week because you're going to get it. Red cards, goals. Like I say, the top scorers in the league, but they've conceded, I think, is it the second most, third most? It's quite high anyways. So like I say, value for money, but another big result for Brackley. They lost to Carlisle in last week, but other than that, they've been pretty solid all through the season coming up. Aldershot finding the feet again. I think Mark said on here previously, where do they want to be? Do they want to win the FA Trophy? Do they want to make, a bit of headway in the league? We're seeing them gradually going up the table. But like I say, for me, they are just value for money. I would pay to watch Aldershot every week for the entertainment value if I lived anywhere near there. But yeah, and that's my 5 in 5 minutes. I don't know how long that was. Felt short. Not as short as Mark's, but
yeah. So the week Mark done it was had some 2-0-0s, didn't he?
Yeah.
You spent more time on the Carlisle game than you did on the rest combined. Just saying.
Understandable now, isn't it? Understandable.
Well, I was actually at that game and I seen the game and I wanted to pay credit to the Truro fans. So I feel like I didn't just rant about how good Carlisle were. So it wasn't a total one-sided thing like Carlisle are amazing, they're going to win the league. I mean, we are. No, I'm joking. But yeah, like I said, we try and just brush past some because we were here at some point where we were like getting up to about 2 hours talking about games, and it's like sometimes, especially if you haven't seen the full game and you're just going off highlights. So we try and just do that. It cuts a bit of time out. So, and then obviously the talking point of the day: Scunthorpe 2, Wealdstone 1, but abandoned. I mean, talk to me, guys. I've obviously seen the comments. I've heard what Andy Butler had to say. Craig, I'll come to you first, mate. What did you make of this?
Yeah, so obviously at the moment we've really only heard one side of the story. The most important thing we've heard from Wealdstone at the minute, obviously, is that the player is okay. He's recovering. It was a bad shoulder injury, but he is back home and recovering, which is ultimately the most important thing out of this whole story, that the player's okay. That being said, it sets a precedence for other teams now. If they are losing and there's a serious injury, we might be able to get this game called off. So what the league do next is massive. For me, they award the points to Scunthorpe. They were 2-1 up. They were ready to play. If everything Andy Butler's saying is true, see, again, we have only heard his side at the moment, that they were ready, the referee had agreed, the league had agreed, Wealdstone didn't, and that's where the breakdown come. Then give them the points. But again, I don't think us as spectators, as fans, and people that aren't inside them two clubs and the league are never going to know exactly what's happened perfectly here. But if everything that's been said to me is true, then give them the points. For Wealdstone, it is a very, very weird situation, because if they have done that, not only are they going to lose this game, are they going to get a deduction for it as well, or a big fine? And then obviously not the biggest club. A fine could have massive impact on them. A points deduction could have massive impact on them. So again, it's just one where we've got to see where it goes. But for me, give Scunthorpe the 3 points from this one. Tuesday's one, completely different scenario, player from each team. But give them a point each for that one, move on, because poor Scunthorpe, if not, they've now got 3 games in hand. They got the Eastleigh one to play again, the Wealdstone one to play again, and obviously they were one of the teams that obviously were due to play Morecambe really early in the season. So for them, they don't want to be playing 3 extra games because they've had an excellent start. You don't want them to have to be playing Monday, Thursday, Saturday towards the end of the season, which I think Rochdale were doing towards the end of last season, but for more weather reasons, because the weather will hit us again soon and there will be postponements in this league. So if you can get these games out the way and chalk them down to what they were at the time, then I think that's fair. And I apologise to Wealdstone fans, but I think even some of them deep down do agree that Scunthorpe deserved the points from yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, just I echo pretty much what Craig says. I think it sets a dangerous precedent. If what we've heard's true, I do believe there's always two sides to everything. We haven't heard. I do think Wealdstone's silence speaks volumes. Mind, personally, like Scunthorpe have been quick to say their piece. Wealdstone haven't really said anything about the actual incident. Obviously, they've said that the player's doing well and things like that, but they haven't actually addressed that. So I feel like that's a bit strange. But for me, if that's the case, how many other teams are going to look at this and go, like Craig said, if we're getting beat and someone goes down, it's like, the head injuries in midweek, totally different because that is player safety. That is, you've got to make sure they are okay. Head injuries can be really, they can be delayed as well, and they've got to be really careful with concussion and things like that. But I think for like shoulder injuries and things like that, I've seen games where people have broken legs and games have carried on and things like that. And I just think, where's the line? And that's where the National League need to step in my opinion, and like put the foot down and say, no, this can't be allowed because
As soon as
of,
possible as well. Don't leave
yeah,
it hanging in the air.
exactly, because it needs to be put down X, Y, and Z reasons. Because there's numerous reasons why, but the main one being because other teams could take advantage of this and use this to their advantage and be like, oh well, we're getting beat 3-0, but if someone goes down injured, we could say, and I'm not saying that goes on, but you would believe that players and managers would think that way because they think, oh well, Wealdstone got away with it, and again, we're waiting to hear what Wealdstone have to say. We've had Max Kretschmar on the podcast, absolutely top bloke. So we'd love to, obviously hear their side of it and everything. So it's not like we're just picking on Wealdstone and having a go at them. I just think for Scunthorpe, award them the points and move on from it because, like Craig says, they're going to have some serious fixture congestion coming up and playing catch up with everybody. And they might end up having to play them when they're not on such a rich vein of form as what they are now. And then it could end up backfiring as well. Casey, what's your opinion on it? Obviously, as a player in the league as well.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, like what we've said before, is making sure the player's all right. As a player myself in the league and stuff, the last thing I want is to be talking about points and things when I'm not in a fit and healthy, stable condition. So fingers crossed. And I know they've said he's doing all right and he's recovering and stuff, which is good. But I agree with what you're saying. I think there needs to be some sort of clarity in the league and for clubs to understand. I agree in terms of the points probably going towards Scunthorpe. It's a tough one because in the later stages of games, especially when it is such a tight game like it was 2-1 and anything can happen in the small time frame that was remaining. So obviously Wealdstone are going to feel like they could have done something in that remaining time. But that's where the clarity needs to come in from the league. That's where it needs to come in and people need to understand whether if that is what is necessary for the time at that present stage where it needs to be abandoned for whatever reason, do the points get automatically awarded to the team that is in front? Is it going to be 1 point apiece? Is it going to be whatever the result is at the time the points go to? There needs to be some sort of clarity with it. And like you said there, if it's maybe early on in the game and it's something that's done before half time or just after half time, maybe before the 60-minute mark where there's actually a decent period of time of the game left, then maybe that's an argument that you say, okay, right, maybe we do abandon it and we have to replay. But maybe if it gets past a certain time frame, maybe the 80th minute, for example, 75th, 80th minute, then you're almost looking a little bit like, well, there ain't much time left. And to be fair, that's probably where most chances come in the back end of the game, which look, we've seen from ourselves where we've given up a little bit of territory recently and stuff and people have put the ball in boxes and stuff and we're confident when defending, but that's where chances can come about with clubs and teams and so there is an argument for both. So I do think there needs to be some sort of clarity with it. I'd be gutted if I was Scunthorpe, especially I don't know the name, but the goal that they scored, I don't know whether anyone's seen it, where it's come out on the edge of the box, he's chest and he volleyed it top corner. So I think I'll be gutted if that was me and it don't count. But look, who knows what they're going to do, and like you said there, I think sooner rather than later they need to come out with with a solution and give everyone that clarity that is necessary, because regardless of the situation, people can look into it and go, right, we wish him all the best, but at the same time, this game is important for us. And all of a sudden, it's very quick to forget about the players' health and safety, which should be number one. It should be number one, 100%. But there's the other side to it where 3 points is massive for everyone, even a point. So, yeah, there needs to be some sort of clarity, and whatever they decide to do, regardless of whether we agree with it or not, at least we will have that understanding moving forward, what is allowed, what isn't allowed.
Yeah, I agree, and I think what you said there about the goal being chalked off as well. I think Andy Butler said in his post-match interview about they picked up a yellow card as well, and he's like, does that mean that they're going to be suspended now, or is that ruled out as well? And it's all these knock-on effects as well. As like, does it count? Does it not count? And obviously, they've got the one in midweek as well. Does that count? Does that not count? It's just massive confusion. And like I say, I was at the Carlisle game and I was just reading it like online, and obviously you read comments and you just like, and then I think Craig sent me the Andy Butler interview, so I was listening to that on my way home, and I was just like he wouldn't, it's like he's obviously telling what he's heard. He's obviously telling the truth, because he wouldn't go on the radio and make stuff up and that. So there's obviously a lot of truth to what he said. So it's like, it's tough because like I say, you want the player to be fit and healthy, and that is the most important thing. But there also has to be some, a line in the sand drawn by the league. And like Craig said, it has to be sooner than later, because the longer it leaves it hanging over the top of it, then there's going to be, I've seen a lot of comments on social media going in on Wealdstone and things like that. And you just want to nip all that in the bud, because you don't want to see that, And I think if there is clarity, whether you like the decision or you don't, but as long as there is a decision and we know where we stand, then you can only have such an argument so far with an argument, can't you? But yeah,
the decision definitely needs to come quick as well, because the player, just going back to what you mentioned about the players getting yellow card, Joseph Starbuck got sent off against Brackley 7 days ago, 1 game banned. Eastleigh abandoned, so he couldn't then play Saturday against Wealdstone, abandoned. He could now miss another game, where effectively he's missing 3 games. So they need to know whether he can be part of their plans for their next game or not. He could be on the sidelines having to watch, or he could be in the starting lineup again. So just Monday morning, something should come out. Just wrap it all up. They get a board meeting 9 o'clock. Wrap it all up by lunchtime, and hopefully a line can be drawn and we can all move on. I don't want Wealdstone getting any more deductions or anything like that, because then there's that cloud always over it. Just give Scunthorpe the points of this one and move on. And that's Mark's rant. I've filled in for Mark today on the little rant.
yeah, because to be fair, I think Mark would have echoed our thoughts just from what I've seen in the group chat and stuff. So, but yeah, like I say, it needs to be nipped in the bud. And I think I've seen a few comments. They put the results up on social media last night from the weekend and things, and everyone underneath saying, I hope you've got a statement ready for Monday morning and things like that. So you'd like to think there's something being planned, and they're going to put a statement out as soon as to get that sorted. But like I say, that's it from us. We'll do our predictions midweek, because obviously we've already done our York Tamworth prediction. I don't know if Craig, to be fair, do you want to mention the scores from the weekend so far?
I will this week, because I've got the most at the moment. So.
I thought you would.
Yeah, me and Ryan, the Scunthorpe fam, are doing really well, but we're obviously going into more depth on that. But we're level going into the York Tamworth games to see who wins the week. And I think I've got 3-1 York against Tamworth, and he's got 3-0. So looking like potentially a draw unless we get a perfect result in that one. But we can find out what Casey thinks about that one, York Tamworth, because we haven't got you on for a full prediction show, mate. You can just give us the one.
Yeah. You want a scoreline, yeah?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Score. 2-1 York. 2-1 York. That's my prediction.
We'll add that to the predictions. We'll add that to our predictions, mate. We'll add it. I know I haven't had a good week, but I was top last week, so I've got to share it out each week. Craig was bottom of the prediction scores last week, and now he's top, and it's vice versa this week. I'm bottom, so it just shows how rogue the league is.
All over it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Who's gonna get them all right in this league? No chance. No chance. Especially when they're getting abandoned as well.
Yeah, he's got no chance.
But yeah,
who's gonna predict the game to be abandoned then? You've got to get all sorts of points for that.
That's a good. That's a good shout, Casey. Actually,
We
I
always
might do
try
that
and put a
midweek.
nil in there everywhere, don't we? We put a nil
Yeah,
in there.
we try and drop a 0-0 in. I might drop an abandonment in there as well somewhere. But yeah, that's a good place to finish it. But thanks, Craig, for joining me as always. Much appreciated, Casey. Thanks for coming on, mate, and giving us your insight into Rochdale and your career. Good luck for the rest of the season, and you're welcome back anytime, mate.
Thank you very much for having me. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. We'll see you all again soon. Take care.